All right, folks, not only do we have breaking news, we have truly great news. This is a political game changer. This man here is Roy Cooper. Until quite recently, he served as the very popular two-term Democratic governor of my state, a swing state, North Carolina. And this morning, he finally formally announced that he's seeking to represent North Carolina in the United States Senate in 2026. And this, for reasons we'll get into, is Donald Trump's worst friggin' nightmare, because not only is Cooper right now already projected to flip this Senate seat for the Democrats, it is now truly possible to flip the entire United States Senate, the majority, for the Democrats in 2026. And we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we're going to watch this. This is Roy Cooper's announcement video. I'm going to show you some clips of his very recent interview with my friend and friend of the show, Brian Tyler Cohen, and we're going to look into some other things as well, which makes Donald Trump truly terrified about this.
It wasn't always this hard, because being in the middle class meant something. You could afford a home, your kids went to good schools, your job paid enough to cover the basics, and most summers you could get away for a few days. For the most part, life was pretty good. I'm Roy Cooper, and I know that today for too many Americans, the middle class feels like a distant dream. Meanwhile, the biggest corporations and the richest Americans have grabbed unimaginable wealth at your expense. It's time for that to change. I grew up in Nash County working on the farm every summer. My mom was a public school teacher, my dad a small-town lawyer and farmer. It's where I started my family, taught Sunday school for years, and started my law practice that helped everyday people and small businesses. When you made me your attorney general, I prosecuted criminals and took on scammers, big banks, and drug companies. When you made me your governor, we balanced the state budget every year and worked with Republicans to raise teacher pay, recruit thousands of better-paying jobs, and expand Medicaid to more than 650,000 working North Carolinians. But right now, our country's facing a moment as fragile as any I can remember. And the decisions we make in the next election will determine if we even have a middle class in America anymore. I never really wanted to go to Washington. I just wanted to serve the people of North Carolina right here where I've lived all my life. But these are not ordinary times. Politicians in D.C. are running up our debt, ripping away our health care, disrespecting our veterans, cutting health for the poor, and even putting Medicare and Social Security at risk just to give tax breaks to billionaires. That's wrong, and I've had enough. I've thought on it and prayed about it, and I've decided I want to serve as your next United States Senator, because even now, I still believe our best days are ahead of us. I love North Carolina, and I know you do too. I need you to be with us, and I can't wait to see you out there.
Damn, that has me all inspired, all fired up. Governor Cooper was just an excellent governor, and the timing of this just could not be better. This is truly a godsend. So when he made his announcement this morning, he did his interview, I think his first formal interview on the topic with Brian Tyler Cohen. You should definitely watch the full thing in its entirety. It's about 18 minutes long, but I want to play you a couple of clips, starting with this one.
And I think about it like this. You know, sometimes when you're in a really difficult situation, you find yourself holding your breath. And so many Americans right now are holding their breath, waiting for their car to break down to get a repair bill that they can't make. They're holding their breath when someone gets sick in their family, and are they going to be able to pay the medical bills? Is there going to be enough money at the end of the month? That's what's facing everyday Americans. And, you know, that was happening before. We as Democrats, we invested a lot in infrastructure, in health care, in moving our country ahead. The economy was pretty good, but I think a lot of times the people in Washington, Democrats and Republicans, overlooked the fact that people were hurting right then. And it's even worse now. So what I'm going to do is to address that. For example, we did work to get a bipartisan agreement to expand Medicaid to 670,000 working North Carolinians, and that's going to help reduce the cost to everybody. We fought for childcare. That's something that you can do in Washington that can make a real difference for the cost for people in the middle class. We can have real middle class tax breaks, not throwing them a penance like the
Yeah.
big bad bill does and giving most of it to the billionaires and to the corporations. We should be making sure that we're concentrating on the people who need tax relief. That's what I want to bring to Washington. And I'm going to use the strategies that we used in North Carolina. As a governor, I had 8 years with a Republican legislature, and we got a lot done bringing.
And he goes on like that. So this is really good because he's number one, leaning into populist rhetoric, and number two, in a state like North Carolina, which is a swing state, but I mean, in terms of, it's been gerrymandered to hell and back by Republicans. I mean, they have they are one seat away from a Republican supermajority. Governor Josh Steins, who succeeded Governor Cooper, he, by the grace of God, has one seat away from dealing with a Republican supermajority. He's also leaning into the bipartisan track record he's had. He was able to work with Republicans in North Carolina. One last clip here I want to show you before we dive into some other things, which is Governor Cooper laying out the case for why the person that Trump has endorsed to run against him, Michael Watley, would be a terrible senator.
The expected frontrunner for the U.S. Senate for Republicans is Michael Watley, who is the chair of the RNC, handpicked by Donald Trump. Can you explain why he would be a bad fit for North Carolina as we head toward 2026?
Well, first, he's been a Washington insider for years. I haven't been elected and served in Washington. I'll be an outsider. I want to bring what we've learned at the state and local level to Washington. He has been a lobbyist for years for big oil. He has been a promoter of extreme candidates across the board. He's an election denier. He recently promoted, many of you might have heard of Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, the Republican who ran for governor in North Carolina. And if you don't know about him, look him up. This is the kind of senator he would be. And I think clearly North Carolinians who are looking for an independent voice, who will work with the president when he can to do good things for the American people, who is not afraid to stand up to the president when he needs to. I think that's the kind of candidate they will want for the United States Senate, and I'm going to provide that kind of candidate for them.
Pretty compelling case. So good on Governor Cooper for making it. And again, this just happened within the past few hours, so we're going to get more information as we go. Lakshya Jain, who is a Democratic pollster, excuse me, I shouldn't say, he is a moderate liberal pollster who works for Split Ticket. He's like a polling and data analyst. We're actually, at the time of recording, we're going to be interviewing him later on tonight on Live and Learn, the stream that I do weekly with Pisco, Econoboy, and Hutch. He's celebrating this as best swing state recruit Democrats have landed in years and makes them slight favorites for the North Carolina seat in 2026. Or already Governor Cooper is favored at the moment to prevail in the election. He also says, my hot take is that the median outcome for North Carolina with Cooper is arguably bluer than the median outcome for an open Senate seat in Michigan, which again is really encouraging and just goes to show how strong Governor Cooper is. Adam Carlson says, I'm no political expert, but a popular Democratic former governor, Roy Cooper, running for Senate in North Carolina, and two popular Republican governors / former governors not running for Senate in Georgia and New Hampshire, tells a pretty clear story about the expected 2026 electorate. Politico has an article on this. We're not going to dive into it. This one is the one which I'm most entertained by. Roy Cooper's chances of beating Republicans as he announces Senate run. Former Democratic North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper announced that he is running for Senate, bolstering Democrats' hopes of winning a Senate race in the Tar Heel state for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Jason Roberts, a political science professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, told Newsweek Democrats are, quote, thrilled about the announcement as he is a top candidate in a, quote, prime pickup opportunity. The Senate election in North Carolina, a battleground roughly evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, will likely be one of the most competitive races of the 2026 midterms, particularly after incumbent GOP Senator Tom Tillis opted out running for another term. That's also a major factor in this. Historically, the party in the White House loses seats in the midterms, so Democrats are hopeful that Donald Trump's approval rating, which most polls suggest have dropped in recent months, could give them an advantage despite a challenging map. But federal races in North Carolina have proven elusive for Democrats, who have not won at the state at either the Senate or presidential level since 2008. Cooper, who was governor from 2017 until 2025, January 1st, as a matter of fact, is viewed as a strong recruit for Democrats as he enjoyed strong approval ratings during his tenure leading the state. Let's take a look here. A poll released last week by Coefficient found that Cooper would be tied with a generic Republican candidate after receiving 48% of support from the survey's respondents. In a head-to-head against Tillis, Cooper held a larger lead with a 49% compared to Tillis's 31%, in part because Tillis's support from the most conservative respondents lagged against his vote against Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Roberts told Newsweek that Cooper's is the Democrats' dream candidate. Quote, it's probably the prime pickup opportunity for Democrats in 2026, so they will put a lot of resources into it. Republicans will not want to lose the seat, so they'll have resources as well. So, again, you have Lakshya Jain saying that Cooper is the slight lead. You have other polls saying he's tied with just a generic Republican, and then another poll saying that if he ran against the incumbent, he would be the definitive lead. So this is all favorable when you consider the political terrain in North Carolina. Now, Watley has low name recognition, but no scandal, certainly compared to Mark Robinson, whom Governor Cooper mentioned as a disastrous candidate. Trump seems to have shrewdly taken a less controversial candidate, but whether his nondescript lack of name recognition will prevail against Cooper's popularity and name ID remains to be seen. But the fact of the matter is, on the balance of probability at the moment, Cooper is more favored over Watley. Will that change as time goes on? Potentially. But this is a serious opportunity, folks, because, as Brian says in this interview, there is no path to a Senate majority, none, that does not involve North Carolina. If we lose North Carolina, then taking back the Senate in 2026, which is unlikely but now possible, will be impossible if we lose North Carolina in 2026. So it's vital that we reclaim the seat and prevent another Republican from succeeding Tillis. And again, Cooper running in North Carolina, that's Trump's worst nightmare in North Carolina. And we need to make that nightmare come true. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.